Good morning. I'm Debbie Cafazzo, a member of the Board of Trustees of Tahoma UU Congregation. As we begin our gathering, I respectfully acknowledge that I'm speaking to you today from occupied Puyallup ancestral land. I pay respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to their descendants and all Indigenous people. We welcome all who are joining us with a longing for community, a hope for peace, and those who are seeking justice. We're a diverse congregation that encourages everyone who comes through our doors, or our Zoom portal, as it is, to find their own truth and belief. We invite everyone to join us in a search for meaning and community guided by reason, respect for each other, and by love. The great thing about doing this on a virtual platform is that we have an opportunity to welcome guests from outside our traditional geographic area. Special welcome to our new friends and to our returning friends from near and far away. I invite you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and links to the video version of this service will be posted there this week, as well as on our website. You can find all our program announcements this week in our e-news, and it's also listed on our church calendar on the website. But here are a few highlights for the week. Following worship service today at 11:30, children are invited to Kids Chapel with Nancy Slocum, our Director of Religious Exploration for Children and Youth. At noon, Doug Taylor hosts Drop-In Chalice Circle, exploring this month's theme, what does it mean to be a people of becoming? There are lots of opportunities this week, and you can find more details on each in the e-news. Tuesday, the UUA Board of Trustees will be hosting an open house. The screening of the Ancestral Waters film is on Wednesday. Our Board of Trustees meets on Thursday, and the link to that meeting is on our church website. On Saturday, April 17th, our Infinite Cups group is hosting Power Words. See if I can get this right, sigils for all ages. Coming up on Thursday, April 26th, Reverend Linda will host a Pathways to Membership for anyone who's interested in becoming a member of our congregation. Next Sunday, April 18th, we're going to have a Side with Love worship service created by UUs across the country. We hope you'll join us for this full-hour worship service that will be streamed on Zoom only, not on Facebook, for this particular week only. And please remember to turn in your pledge forms. I am going to attempt to paste a link to that into our chat. You can go right on our website, click on that, and turn in your pledge form through the website. And I am pleased to announce that we are currently at 63% of our goal with $182,288 pledged. Our goal is $288,205. So we've got a ways to go to hit our goal, and please give what you can. Finally, this morning, we have an unusual circumstance to report. Some of you may have gotten up early and read the e-news. Late last night, there was a 2-vehicle accident on South 56th in front of the church building. No one was seriously injured in the accident, but one of the vehicles landed on the front steps that face South 56th Street. The damage to the church was limited to the front steps, the railings, and the concrete. We will be following up with our insurance company, but if you drive by and see the damage, we just wanted to let you know we're on it. So stay tuned. Links for all of our programs can be found in the weekly e-news or via events on our church calendar. Thank you again for your ongoing financial support to our congregation that makes all of this possible. Our programs, our staff who answer phone calls from the police on Saturday night, and who create and facilitate all of our great programs. Now, let us prepare to gather in worship.
I always forget to unmute before we get here. Fortunately, it's an easy matter to get there. Good morning, my friends. It is good to be with you today. We arrive here, bringing with us the joys of our lives, the pleasures of good sleep, delicious solitude, the steady hand of a beloved nearby. We arrive here bearing with us stresses and tensions, fears for the future, heartache and heartbreak, a heaviness of heart that maybe doesn't seem to end. All of this is welcome in this place. We come here bearing the gift of ourselves, always a good gift, even if we don't believe it. We come offering the love we can, always a good gift, even if we believe it isn't enough. All of this is welcome in this place. Worried or content, full of heart or empty, bearing all of it within. Welcome to this virtual sanctuary, this home where we seek the best we can be, where we remember what we're made for, where we are called again and again to love fiercely, to live bravely, to embody compassion and empathy, no less for ourselves than for those around us. As always, it is good to be together this day.
Please ready your at-home chalices and join me in the unison reading as Nancy lights our chalice in the sanctuary. The words you may find in the chat. We light this chalice in deep respect for the mystery and the holiness of life, in honor and gratitude for those who have gone before, with love and compassion for those who dwell among us, and with hope and faith for the generations to come.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Nancy Slocum, and I am the Director of Religious Exploration for Children and Youth here at Tahoma UU Congregation, and it is great to be here this morning. The sun is shining. That just always puts a smile on my face. This is our time for all ages, a time when we usually invite the children to come up to the front of the sanctuary. So come close to your computers. Listen in. I could hear the yelling. I want to play Legos. Yeah, but I want to play Monopoly. And it went on, back and forth. My son, Jake, had his best friend, Jeff, over for the afternoon, and they were doing more arguing than playing. It was getting to the point where none of us in the house were having any fun. Have you ever had times like these? Times when you or the people around you are just having a hard time getting along. Maybe people start getting angry, people start getting frustrated, people start yelling, screaming, stomping their feet. Yeah, we all have those moments, don't we? Well, this particular day, it got to the point where I just didn't want to hear it any longer. And I'd usually take that as a sign that maybe it was time for them to spend some time apart. Maybe it was time to send Jeff home, let Jake have some quiet time at home. Maybe they didn't need to be together. But before I did that, I went into Jake's room and I said, let's have a little chat. And both of them just started talking over each other and telling me their side of their argument that they were having. And I stopped them and said, whoa, stop. I don't want to talk about what you're arguing about. I want to talk about something different. I want to ask you a question. Are you two friends? And well, yeah. We both agreed. I said, well, what does your friendship mean to you? And they each talked about how much they enjoyed each other's company and how fun it was to have each other right next door so they could get together and play, and how they really did like each other's company most of the time. So it sounds like your friendship's really important to you, isn't it? Yeah, they both agreed it was very important. And when you're fighting, is that fun? No, that's not fun at all. So thinking about how important your friendship is, how would you rather be with one another when you have disagreements? How do you want to treat one another? And how do you want to be treated when you have a disagreement? Because there's always disagreements, right? We don't always agree on everything. How do you want to treat one another? And they both thought about it, and they said, well, with kindness and as friends. And when you're arguing loudly and yelling at each other and stomping your feet and saying kind of mean things to each other, are you treating each other with kindness and as friends? No. It's okay to disagree. You're not always going to agree on everything. But maybe there's a way you can figure out how to be with one another, how to disagree without being unkind to one another, without fighting. So take a moment to think about that. See if you have any suggestions about how you can disagree but still treat each other kindly, as friends, with respect. Well, they talked about it, and they decided that when they disagree, they should sit down and talk about it and have a calm conversation about it, not let their tempers rise up. And then they should try and figure out a way that when maybe they're not agreeing, they can work to see each other's point of view, or that they can both kind of help each other get what they want, a piece of what they want. Well, how would that work, I asked. They thought, well, we could say when we're disagreeing, we could say, wait, stop, let's talk about this. And then we can sit down and we can each say what we want, and then we can think about ways that we can both get what we want. How might you do that? Well, we could take turns, said one. Yeah, we could do one thing first and then do the other. We could flip a coin to decide, or draw straws to decide what we're going to do. Maybe sometimes we can each do our own thing and still be side by side. We don't need the other to play a game or something. And we could ask adults to help us if we needed. And on and on and on, they came up with ideas about how they might solve their disagreements and how they might do so with kindness and as friends. So after they finished, I asked them, so are you two willing to make a commitment to each other, to make a promise to each other? That when you disagree, you'll work to have a respectful conversation with each other rather than screaming and yelling at each other. That this is the way you want to be with one another. And they agreed that that sounded pretty good. You know, when we make these agreements, an agreement on how we want to treat one another, we call it a covenant. A covenant is like a promise we make to each other, and it could be between two people, as it was with Jake and Jeff, or it could be 100 people all together making an agreement about how we want to treat one another. It's an agreement that comes from within. It's not a rule that somebody imposes on us and says, you have to do this. But instead, it comes from that place inside of us that we know we want to be kind to people. We know we want to treat people respectfully. For Jeff and Jake, they focused on how important their friendship was to them. And because their friendship was important, they wanted to be kind and respectful to each other. And so it was easy for them to make that promise to one another. You know, we use covenants here in our church. Our congregation has a covenant that talks about how we want to treat one another, how we want to be in community with one another. We have covenants in our classrooms. It's been a while since we've been in a classroom together, but at the beginning of each year, we always put together a covenant where we talk about how we want to be with one another. And we talk about things like treating each other with respect by letting people take turns and not talking over people, not interrupting people, in all different ways that we might be together. And the covenant that we have is a really great place to go back to and review it when we're having some challenges getting along. It's a reminder of what we've promised to one another. Now, I wish I could say that Jake and Jeff never had another argument. No, that's not true. They did. But as time went on, they got better and better at remembering their covenant, their promise to one another, their promise to have kind and respectful conversations. It helped them work out their differences, and their time together got better as a result. That's our time for all ages. I share with you the words we used to sing the kids out of church every Sunday. We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go, to nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go. Take good care, everyone.
Now is the time we offer our financial gifts to the work of this congregation. Thank you for your consideration to support our church during this unprecedented time apart. You may follow the link on this slide or click the link in the chat or text your donation to contribute your support for our church members and staff working tirelessly to keep our congregation connected in new and dynamic ways. Every little bit helps, and while we are physically apart, our gifts are stronger together. Please join me now in the unison reading that you can find in our chat and on the following slide. We dedicate ourselves and our offerings to the work of this congregation, weaving a tapestry of love we call community, both within and beyond these walls.
I invite you now into a time of quiet and reflection, a time of prayer or meditation, or simply pausing in the stillness with one another. I offer you these words as a starting point for this time of community together. Learning to live with love and courage is what we try to do in community, ever and always. The ministry we share in this congregation means to seek to create transformative community. We say, we are on the road. We are trying to make the world we dream a world that is real. Release the prisoners, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, lift up those who mourn. We are trying to make it better. We say, we strive, yet we have failed to be what we meant, to do what we meant, failed to live what we hoped. We say, the world gets dark and we get lost. And we say to each other, here's my hand, we'll find a way together. And we say, this way can be hard, but look, there are tiny buds on that tree. Look, there's the sunrise. Let us pause in stillness with one another. So may it be. Amen.
Our first reading today comes from Our Covenant by Sue Phillips. As Unitarian Universalists, we choose to come together not because we're commanded, but because we are called, and because we answer that call. This call and its answer are so powerful that they transcend an incredibly diverse spectrum of belief about the shape and even existence of the collar. Such is the power of covenant in Unitarian Universalism. Our people have worked theological miracles. As Unitarians and Universalists and Unitarian Universalists, we have allowed our fundamental beliefs to change over the centuries according to conscience and science and revelation. Our people have integrated the rationalism of science, the intuition of transcendentalism, and the ethics of humanism. We have managed to stay together even as the core Christian story receded as one among many wisdom stories. Covenant, the collective commitment to and practices of religious community, is how we have stayed and how we'll continue to stay together. And yet we are a people of competing commitments. The freedom of belief that has helped us remain flexible in light of new revelation and experience also weakens our binding ties. We value interconnection, but we are cautious about asking much of each other. As individuals and groups, we want to belong, but are reluctant to be claimed. This tension between freedom and connection is our birthright as religious liberals. And could you hear Julian in the background? Yep.
Such a gift to hear the voices of our children, or at least one of them. I'm grateful for the opportunity to know that we are all community and family together. Several years into my ministry here, Tandy Rogers, who you probably know is one of our affiliated community ministers here and a member of the congregation, told me that every morning before she began her work for the Unitarian Universalist Association, our larger denominational body, she would take a few moments to pause, light a chalice, and repeat our covenant. Like you, perhaps, I found this puzzling. If we were in the sanctuary this morning, I'd point you to the covenant that we print in our order of service every Sunday. Or I'd take you over to where the framed and signed copy of our covenant hangs in the entryway. This covenant that was signed decades ago. In fact, Tandy's two sons were very young, small people. They are now full-grown and independent adults. So it's been a while since we signed that covenant. It's rather long and actually kind of detailed in describing how we choose to be with one another, what we commit to being with one another. When you have a moment, it's worth taking a look at it on our website to read it through. And could somebody pop that into the chat? I put the link in our script this morning. So anyhow, when Tandy said this to me, that she said our covenant in the morning, I was puzzled and I asked her, I said, what do you mean? What do you say? Because it was not our covenant, which is, pretty long. She said, I say, I light this chalice in deep respect for the mystery and holiness of life. She added a few more words to make it her own. And that was what she used every day that she went to work to start her workday. I was surprised and moved by that very simple daily ritual of committing herself to honoring the past, offering compassion to the people she would be interacting with, her commitment to those who will follow us, and that very deep primary commitment to the mystery and holiness of which we are a part. Partly because of that, a few years later, Tandy and I undertook a summer service in which we talked about covenant. At its most basic, a covenant is a promise made between people. In our congregation, like all Unitarian Universalist congregations, We aren't bound by a common creed or a dogma or doctrine, but instead what binds us together is a promise to one another about how we will live, both within and beyond this congregation. Because Tandy loves to make ideas tangible, she constructed a loom out of PVC pipe. And I cut up strips of paper. So in the midst of the service, we invited everyone to write what they promised on one side and what they needed on the other. After we spoke, everyone who wished to came forward to weave their words into the loom that had been strung with its rainbow yarn. At first, Tandy and I held the loom. Eventually, we handed it off to members of the congregation to hold, and they handed it off to others. That's how this works, right? We share the work we do. Our children took part too. I pulled out my spinning wheel and showed them how making yarn works. Soft and fragile threads of roving, that's wool that's been combed so that all the fibers are parallel. That roving falls apart with very little effort. But once spun together, the wool becomes strong and enduring. You can see that little wisp of yarn right there. They wove it in as well. These pictures are a manifestation of the tapestry of love that we seek to weave here week after week, year after year. When we dedicate ourselves and our offering to the life of this congregation, we are affirming not only our lives within it, but affirming the power of coming together to accomplish more than we can do on our own. We are affirming the power of our love for each other and our wish to make something meaningful and healing for the world. This particular quirky tapestry, that golden frame of PVC pipe, the rainbow weft, and our intentions, promises, and needs, is a good representation of all of us, I think. In England, they would call this homely, not meaning unattractive as we tend to think of it here in the US, but rather having the quality of being like home. Think about the thump of a sleepy dog's tail on the floor, or your favorite slippers, or that chipped mug that you can't let go of because somebody very special gave it to you. And maybe especially that strange gift that a kid gave you, or a crayon scrawl across a piece of paper that without words communicates love. The Reverend Sue Phillips, who, as it happens, if you didn't know, is married to Tandy, is a strong voice for the importance of covenant in our UU communities. She wrote, as Unitarian Universalists, we choose to come together, not because we're commanded to, but because we are called, and because we answer that call. The call and its answer are so powerful that they transcend an incredibly diverse spectrum of belief about the shape and existence, even existence of the caller. Such is the power of covenant in Unitarian Universalism. We gather not because we are commanded to be here, not because we fear the wrath of an angry God, but because we know we need one another to find what makes a life worthy. Because there are things that we cannot accomplish without one another. Because when we join together, we can create possibility and promise that is unavailable if we are on our own. Community, you see, isn't really an additive phenomenon. It's exponential. Its total is always far greater than the sum of its parts because our creativity and inspiration expands. And the power of a gathering of souls who are working together to discern how to heal themselves and the world is unlimited. The power of a gathering of souls who are working to discern how to heal themselves and the world is unlimited. That is what we get, friends, when we are a part of a community such as TUUC. And it's grounded in the ways that we commit to one another and the promises to continue to support and care for each other and for the community. That's what it means to covenant together. In this so very strange and stressful year, I want to tell you, we have done some amazing things. Our parking lot will shortly become a place of safety for people whose only homes is their cars. That we can offer that hospitality is a combination of the hard work and dedication of a group of members and friends who brought their creativity and compassion to problem solving. Also, after reading Widening the Circle of Concern, we have formed an implementation team to see how we might bring the recommendations of our larger UU body into our community. Watch for a worship service coming up that explores some of what we might do and be together as we widen the circle of concern. And friends, let me tell you, it is not a small thing that we have been at this over a year, being together without having to be in person with one another. And the end is almost in sight. We aren't quite there yet. We do amazing things. We accomplish amazing things. I'm so grateful for what each one of you brings and the gift of your attention and presence and energy and love. I am so grateful. The church I attended in Chicago many, many years ago used these words to invite the offering on Sundays. I think of them as a nice compliment to the dedication for our offering. We always said, this church is the community of ourselves. Its energy and resources are our energy and resources. Its wealth is what we share. As we contribute to the life of this community, we affirm our lives within it. I invite you, as we come to the end of my remarks today, to pause in gratitude and to affirm this community of which we are a part. After we have taken time to set our intentions, Alana will speak via video to us today about the end of our pledge and stewardship campaign this week. Let us pause to set our intentions, my friends. So may it be. Amen.
Today we celebrate the success of our stewardship campaign. As of the most recent tabulation, we have fallen short of the fundraising goal, but I think we can still count this pledge drive a success because amid the uncertainty of this past year, we came together as a congregation. We came together to celebrate our strong bond of community formed through our UU values and principles. We can and should celebrate how we have continued putting our principles into action this year. Thank you to all who pledged financial support to TUUC. Without the support of this congregation, TUUC would cease to exist. This year, we have proven that TUUC is more than a physical place. When the adversity of a global pandemic altered the way we come together, we adapted to using new technology. Thank you to all who made it possible to come together in all the ways we have for the past year. We have persisted. I offer this quote from the Stewardship Covenant adopted by the UU Church of Ventura. To me, this quote best sums up what supporting a congregation is all about. The existence and the health of our congregation depends solely on the generosity of our members, both generosity of time and treasure are necessary. Neither alone is sufficient. Neither alone is sufficient. Lastly, I would like to thank all who contributed their time and energy to all aspects of the stewardship campaign. Behind the scenes of this pledge drive were many Zoom meetings, emails, videos created and uploaded, rehearsals and hours spent writing and revising, as well as the manual labor of data entry and envelope stuffing. Everyone rose to the occasion, and we put this fundraising effort together in a way that has never been done before at TUC. That alone is worthy of a celebration. We did it. Thank you again to everyone who was a part of it. Let's take a moment now to look at some of the faces behind this year's pledge drive. They too have something to say to you. 2 little words that can't be said enough.
Our closing words are from Reinhold Niebuhr. Nothing worth doing can be achieved in our lifetime. Therefore, we are saved by hope. Nothing which is true or beautiful or good makes complete sense in any immediate context of history. Therefore, we must be saved by faith. Nothing we do, however virtuous, can be accomplished alone. Therefore, we are saved by love. No virtuous act is quite as virtuous from the standpoint of our friend or foe as it is from our own standpoint. Therefore, we must be saved by the final form of love, which is forgiveness. May it be so with us today and in the days to come, until we are together again.
Please join me in the unison reading as we extinguish our chalices at home and as Nancy extinguishes in our sanctuary. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And our closing blessing song today comes from Asher.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and of this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and of this we live.